Hello everyone and welcome to Hill Street. Today's story is, I gave some trick-or-treaters bloody candy, and now they won't stop knocking, by Scary Max. If you end up enjoying this story, please leave a like, and if you enjoy hearing stories from me, please subscribe and become a resident of Hill Street, and let me know how I'm doing in the comments. Now, let's get to this nightmare. I got to a point in life where I got tired of seeing other people and moved to the middle of the woods where no one would bother me. Truth be told, I wasn't the sort of man most people wanted in their neighborhoods anyway. These days, on 100 acres down several miles of dirt roads, I saw a neighbor maybe once, twice a year. A little before dusk on Halloween, I'd been building garden beds and nicked my thumb on my saw blade. I wasn't gushing blood, so I kept on working until the job was done. Then, headed in for a shower and a drink. I'd just gotten dressed when the first knock came. At first, I thought it must be my imagination. I hadn't heard a car pull up. I looked out the window and didn't see anything. So, I figured it must have been raccoons knocking around the front porch again. Then, I heard the knock again. Definitely at the door this time. "Who is it?" I shouted, but there was no response. I opened the door and looked down to see two children no taller than my belt, both dressed in white sheets with jagged holes cut for eyes. They held out pristine orange pumpkin baskets, both totally empty. "Trick or treat!" they shouted together. For a second, I stood fairly well frozen, but the kids just stared at me, holding out their baskets and waiting. I felt like I had to do something. I don't exactly keep a bag of lollipops in the house, but I managed to find a few old cough drops in a drawer and drop them into the kids' pumpkins. It wasn't until after they fell in that I saw I left a smear of blood on the wrappers. I looked up, prepared to apologize, but the kids looked up at me with big, thankful eyes. "So generous," said one. "Delicious," said the other. Before I could ask them where their parents were or how they'd gotten to my house, they pulled the door closed behind them. Then I heard the little footfalls pounding down my front steps. I sat down in my armchair and turned on the TV, trying not to get too up in my own head. Probably they were just the closest neighbor's grandkids, wandering a ways from home. I never liked children, especially the sound of them, laughing, screaming. Sometimes I just get filled with these unstoppable needs to shut them up. I heard another knock. There'd be no candy this time. I walked to the door and opened it, ready to toss the little miscreants down the stairs. But this time there were three girls, slightly older, all dressed as skeletons. "Trick or treat! We heard you got the best treats!" The tall girl gestured over her shoulder to the two little boys from earlier. They were standing near the base of my steps, holding hands with their pumpkins at their feet. I'm not sure I got anything left." "That's too bad," said the middle one. "Yes, we have to play a trick," said the littlest one. I rummaged in a small bowl near the door and found some change, dropped a quarter in each girl's pumpkin. The oldest one lifted the coin out carefully, inspecting it in the fading sunlight. Like the cough drops, the coin was smudged with a bit of my blood. "Very kind," she said. "Very generous." "So delicious," said the little one. "It's not chocolate," I was saying as they closed the door. I had barely turned away when I heard a deep thudding against the door. This time, I looked outside to see a single fat teenager dressed as a bat. I didn't open the door. The thudding continued. "Trick or treat!" the boy shouted, his voice low and holding an edge of violence. Looking out the window, I saw that the three skeleton girls were standing with the ghost boys now, all holding hands and staring in at me through the living room window. The fat teenager descended the stairs and joined them. It's been a few hours now, and the knocks just keep coming. More kids keep joining the first ones, all holding hands, all staring at me. I've seen them passing my coins around, popping them in their mouths. There are at least a few dozen trick-or-treaters now. They're looking in through all the windows. Some of them are staring at the walls as if they could see right through them. Every once in a while, one yells, "Trick or treat!" and the others laugh as sharing a private joke. I've been trying to stop my thumb from bleeding, but it just won't. I've soaked bandage after bandage, and the wound just stays wet, even though it's barely a nick. The air is starting to smell strange too, a weird mix of cough drops and coin and the iron of the blood. Outside, the crowd keeps growing. The yelling and laughing are quieting down, replaced with a sense of anticipation. It is only now that I realize they are forming a circle around my house. It's almost complete.